Good evening, campers, it's me, Kieran. Today we are going to talk about Paul Lynch's Prophet Song. Set sometime in Dublin, Eilish Stack has a visit from two men. They're part of the GNSB, a fictional Irish secret service that gets its name from the GNPSB, Garda National Protective Services Bureau. Lynch's GNSB isn't looking after its citizens, it's going after their citizens. Eilish Stack advises that her husband will return to the house at some point, and the GNSB advise that it's best to cooperate with them, and as soon as he comes through the door, to give them a ring on the number they provide. Upon her husband arriving home, Larry Stack feels as though he doesn't really need to cooperate with the GNSB. He thinks it has something to do with his role as a senior unionist for teachers. Eilish agrees if there's nothing to hide, then nothing will happen, but her husband goes missing after meeting with the two men from the GNSB. Within this fictional Ireland, the Irish government has imposed emergency laws. We'll see through the eyes of Eilish the fracturing of the Stack family, but we'll also see the fracturing of a community as everyone begins to look after their own interests and begin to pick sides of a war that is unfolding rapidly in front of them. Prophet Song utilizes the wall of text in order to create a really disorientating experience. You, like Eilish, is trying to understand what is happening to Dublin. We mirror Eilish as she begins to navigate all the political and bureaucratic changes. Why can't she get a passport for her child? Why are there armed forces outside the supermarkets? Why is her child being transported to a different hospital without her consent? It is somewhat Kafkaesque. Eilish can't do things because the bureaucrats keep putting things in her way for no real reason and for no real purpose. While the comparison I'm going to make moves from Prophet Song's war setting over to a Romanian hospital, this did remind me somewhat of the death of Mr. Lazarescu, where Lazarescu, like Eilish, cannot get the help because everyone's being fed different information. All the people who do know the processes and should be able to help now cannot. Simply, Eilish has no clue what is going on around her. Now she has to convey what's happening to her children of various ages. Some of them, this will just be the island that they grew up in. Some of them are rightfully scared. Seeing the amount of violence that is happening around them, would rather die than go to school. The eldest child, Mark, now that he is fulfilling the role of father of the house, wants to take things into his own hands and therefore joins the rebels, the paramilitary. While some of Eilish's neighbours applaud Mark's decision to fight for their country, Eilish is left even more alone, even more debased, and questions more what can she do for the safety of her children. Now, some of you hearing Island War and paramilitary might be thinking, is this the Troubles? And I'm aware there might be some Irish looking at this Welshman going, "Can it all got? Prophet Song is concentrated on Dublin and the surrounding areas. It does not mention Northern Ireland, so this isn't the Troubles. However, aspects of the Troubles are very heavily hinted at here. So this is basically the Troubles with more steps. And so it's worthwhile reflected is Lynch decided to talk about the cyclical nature of history, that things are bound to repeat themselves at some point. Prophet Song does tap, well, it doesn't really tap onto, it lightly knocks away at the door, at the effect that media has on us to desensitize us. We are used to a bombardment of media, be that on the TV, the radio, on our mobile phones, about horrendous things that are happening outside of our countries. And I don't think Lynch is talking about any contemporary wars going on, just the fact that wars now, since the Vietnam War, are televised to us. We get to see what is happening. We get updates on what is happening, to the point that it doesn't really feel real. People just become figures, they become statistics, they become almost white noise. Eilish, who has been threshed with change, they are now armed guards on her street, stifling her entrance to her own door. Irish nationalists who have found her address via the local paper are beginning to vandalise her own property. With all this huge change, it is a piece of shrapnel that initiates her wanting to leave, to take her children and flee her home. Lynch's Prophet Song is a little bit like Laurent Mauvigny's The Birthday Party. This is a slow work that ultimately has a firecracking ending. But rather than going off with a bang, just slowly fizzles away in the corner. There's a logical rationale behind this. It is not that one day you are not in war and the next day everything's on fire, there's civil unrest, there's people on the street. That's not really how war works. There is a slow change that happens as civil unrest and people decide to take matters into their own hands. It's the smaller cogs that have to move aplenty in order for the bigger ones to enact. Because of this aspect, I spent a lot of time with Prophet Song thinking, where's this going? Like, what is happening? Is Larry just a distant memory and life just continues on in Dublin? As the war crescendos, Eilish is forced to embroil her younger children into the action, and there are emotional and bleak circumstances that happen to those children. That being said, they didn't land a gut punch because they feel like sacrificial pawns in this. I didn't adore and I wasn't really enamoured with this work, and so Prophet Song by Paul Lynch gets a 5 out of 10.